It all starts with a spark, like this thought or this vision in your head that gives you these ideas and these visions of who you want to be. And I can remember myself sitting in my room, writing in my journal about stories and characters of people I had no idea who they were. And I just knew that that's who I was going to be. I was going to write books, I was going to move to Atlanta, and I was going to become this big-time authoress. And I did that. I got the awards. I got the bestsellers list. I met some phenomenal people, and I've helped other people dream out loud. I think that when it comes down to dreaming, it's more than about just getting it done. It's about having fun and enjoying life while you do it. So y'all dream out loud with me.
If you're looking for a secure haven within the literary world, you found the perfect organization. Let's make magic together. Our space is specifically designed for African American authors who are passionate about their writings of films and books. It's a platform to stay informed about industry developments. And on Patreon, we'll share exclusive content, valuable resources, and engaging discussions and masterclasses on various subjects, ranging from film and publishing industry trends to wellness and business tips. So if you're ready to dive into this exciting community, become a member now. Welcome to our literary haven where creativity knows no bounds. Let's make magic together.
All right. Good afternoon, y'all. Happy Sunday. Come on into the room. So I usually say if you're seeing me on your screen, that means it's fourth Sunday. But unfortunately, that is not the case for October, November. But we move and shake. So you are seeing my lovely face today as we approach the holiday season when we have a couple of changes. But y'all, welcome to In Creative Color. It's me, your fave, Jazz on Fire, and I am so excited to share with y'all our guest for today. So I'll bring them right on in, and then we're going to introduce them, and we're going to get to talking. See, Nathaniel Brown, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So before we get started, of course, I always like to pray us in because, listen, I know it's Sunday and you got you a word, but you can get you another one with this conversation. So, precious Father, we thank you for being the ultimate creator. You are the creative genius whose grace flows through our veins. You created us. You created the heavens and earth, God. And again, your grace just flows through our veins. So we thank you for this conversation today. We pray that it will be soul food to someone who is hungry, God. And it's in your mighty name we uplift you and we thank you. Amen.
Amen.
All right, so let's get into it. Y'all, this resume, as always, my guest, it's just how it is. All of my guests, the resume is always stacked. So I'm going to read the bio, and then we'll hop right into it. So, Nathaniel Brown is an award-winning filmmaker, best-selling author, and a storytelling coach. He's the founder and CEO of the Atlanta-based media entertainment company called Expected In Entertainment. He began a 20-year writing career as a newspaper and magazine reporter, and we're going to get into that. And so in 2009, he merged his writing talents with his visual talents as a photographer and produced his first short film. Since then, the Baltimore native has written, produced, and or directed more than 40 films, ranging from short films, feature films, and documentary films, many on critical topics, which we will also get into today. So let's talk about it. So, Nathaniel, I met you at Black Writers Weekend, and we chatted a bit on the red carpet, but I'm so very grateful and honored to have you today for an in-depth conversation. What have you been up to since then?
Oh, wow. It's been moving. It's been a tremendous blessing to be able to do the things that I've always dreamt of, to write, to make impactful films, to share books, to help writers. And since then, we've been going city to city with our documentary, which is called Remember Me, Dementia in the African American Community. We've been screening across the country. We've been sharing information to help people understand what dementia is and how it's impacting the African American community in particular. And so that's been the driving force behind, what I've been doing. But that also includes the book, the companion book, which is Exposing Dementia, 8 Critical Takeaways for African Americans. Plus, my producer partner, Nate Stubbs, in UniQ Arts in Pittsburgh, we premiered our stage play called God Sis, And that was phenomenal, which we can talk a little bit more about as we're talking about bringing that as well as the male version, God Guys, back to Atlanta in 2025. So we're working on that as well. And then a couple of weeks ago, as if that wasn't enough, we premiered our feature film called Same Spot, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. But we premiered that, and then we're going to be doing another screening of that next Sunday. So just a lot of great things that we're doing in this moment. That God is really opening up doors, allowing us to impact people's lives, and it's just such a blessing.
I absolutely love that. So all I hear is work, 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 and busy, and I love that. So you are actually my first guest, my first documentary guest. And so a lot of your work is obviously rooted in the real life and nonfiction. When did you first realize that this was what you were called to do?
I was probably 4 or 5 years old.
Wow.
Uh, I told my mother I wanted to be a writer. I don't know how that came about. I don't know what I was thinking other than seeing her. She used to write a lot of poetry, and I would watch her. And so I guess that was my inspiration to start writing, and I started writing poetry. And then it evolved into short stories and writing down ideas and sticking them in my pocket and say, one day I'm going to put this in a movie. One day I'm going to put this on television. Or watching my family, which is included of many, many, many characters. So I would say, oh yeah, Uncle Buzz, okay, I see what you're doing. And it was those ideas that kind of evolved over the years, like, yep. And so I started having, at the time, it was a junk drawer. So in my top drawer of my dresser, I used to just put all the little pieces of paper and notes in there. And then it got to be too much. So then it became this duffel bag that I still have, that I'm
Wow.
still using to create content with right now.
A duffel bag?
It's a huge duffel bag of just ideas and notes and letters and things like
Interesting.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
I have never heard of that. I feel like as creatives, we all have kind of a chaotic process that works for us. But a
Mhm.
duffel bag, that's next level. That
Yeah,
is so.
it was definitely different.
With your duffel bag, do you just like reach in and you're like, okay, I'm gonna grab this and this is what I'm working on today? Like, how does that look?
No, so certain things I just remember, for example, certain stories and things like that. And so if I'm just thinking about a family member or something, then I'll just kind of go back to that memory. And then other times I'm just in nostalgia mode, and I'll go through the bag and look, no, what was I thinking here? And then I'll just see something like, you know what? I haven't thought about this in years. Let me just start developing a little bit. And so even some of the stories that, for example, I'm going to be doing a series on my mother, about my mother's life, that she tells me I can't do until she dies because she doesn't want people to know some of these things yet. But a lot of those stories are in that bag.
Mm.
And so I'll write them, I'll drop them in, I'll write them, drop them in. And of course, now a lot of it is on a computer or a hard drive or something. But the genesis of a lot of those stories are in that bag. Just some things that I remembered or some things that happened that I said, you know what, this has to go somewhere because it's just too good, it's too hilarious or something. And so that's kind of what it became. And it's kind of slightly in storage right now, but I just go back to it from time to time whenever I get inspired or just want to remember something.
I love that. And I feel like every story, every project, every creative idea that we have, there will always be a time for it. So
Yeah.
if not right now, I found like this post and it was like, write down a couple of dreams or projects that you have in mind and go put them in the fridge. And I was like, do what? But it's just like putting it on ice. Because right now it's not time for it, but it will be. And one day you're going to be like, you know what? I got to go get that thing out the fridge and we got to cook this thing. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's pretty unique. I don't think anybody else has had a process like that. So I know you mentioned you have a project about your mom, and I love that you even went in this direction because I was really interested to talk about how in your work, a lot of your family and personal life is so interwoven into it, and your loved ones heavily inspire the work that you do. So you can talk about that, especially in regard to the sensitive topics that your documentaries cover. But what is that like? So I know Mama said, don't put my business out until I die, and you can tell them whatever you want. But what is that like? What is it like to incorporate your family into your work? And what does that process look like? Is there ever beef? Is there ever drama? Is you ever like, Lord, I can't work with family?
Yeah, it's a little bit of all of that. So some of it is just my interpretation of things that have happened or how I remembered certain things. So all of it is not, nonfiction. This is exactly what happened, but it was inspired by them, and or it's kind of like Medea's character for Tyler Perry, a combination of his family members that morphed into Medea as this character. So some of it is like that, but then some of it is the actual stories that are being written for entertainment. So with my mother to me is the greatest storyteller ever, naturally. So it's not about her trying to be funny or trying to get an emotion. She's just talking. And so a lot of times I'll just listen and I'll be like, really, did this happen? Okay, let me write this down. So she even jokes right now when we're having conversations or somebody else is around, you better not say anything. She's gonna be jotting down notes because she's used to me now, like, okay, yeah.
Oh my
And,
goodness.
and so some of it is, serious issues, but then it peppers in her comedic experiences. For example, and this is something I've told a couple of times, she had a cousin. Okay, when I was younger, she had me a dog. She put the dog out on a porch and they went to some club or did something and came back, the dog was dead, frozen on the back porch. So my uncle came out and grabbed the dog and threw it on one of her cousins, and it was like this hilarious thing that now when I tell it, everybody gets a visual of the reaction of my mother's cousin, who is my cousin, so it's my second cousin, but they can get the visual of her reaction even before I say what she did. But okay, here's this crazy silly man who throws this frozen dead dog on a woman that's afraid of dogs anyway, and then her reaction is just hilarious and the way my mother tells the story. So it kind of creates that imagery and make it really funny. Like it's kind of morbid, but at the same
Yeah.
time it's funny when you kind of put it into that context. And so it's things like that. But then there's also the personal trials and traumas that she went through and how she was able to navigate those things. And those are the types of things that are impactful to me because it taught me about perseverance. It taught me about strength. It taught me about so many things like overcoming obstacles. And so I utilize those stories for me to build character, not just for myself, but characters that I develop. And it's the same way with my uncle that I'm referring to now. My grandmother, I'm actually working on a piece for her that I'm planning to submit to Essence for next year.
Come
Um,
on. It's
it,
yours.
it's a
It's
piece of
already
her
done.
story as well, yeah. And so that's just what I try to do. I just try to bring out some of those things. And my family is just functional as my family is, like just about every other family, I have some of the most amazing individuals, amazing stories, amazing strength, character, all of those things. And they are what made me who I am today, both on the good and bad, because I saw some things like, you know what, that's not for me. But then other things like, you know what, that's where I'm going to pull this strength from. And then collectively, those good and bad things become a full story, whether it's only a piece, because with the story that I'm talking about with my grandmother, it's only probably going to be a 15-minute short film. So it's only a piece of the story, but it's enough of an impact for someone to say, wow, okay, this moved me, or this reminds me of a situation with my
Yeah.
grandmother, or something like that, where we're able to still have those conversations and still have impact while we're doing something that's both going to entertain, but then also hopefully inspire and motivate somebody.
I love that. And what I'm hearing is because my family is also crazy and dysfunctional. I don't think anybody's tossed any dead dogs on anybody. Not that
They
I
might have. Yeah, they might have.
sounds like I need to get to writing.
Yeah, yeah.
Love
So
it.
I get a lot of times because I work with a lot of writers or people that know that I've done multiple books, help people with books, done multiple movies. They'll say, "Well, I got an idea for you," and I jokingly but seriously say, "I never need somebody's idea
Mm,
because I have enough for my family alone."
yeah.
And then everything on a daily basis that I walk into, I see or anything, it can become an idea for a project. And so I'm never void of ideas or creativity. And that's one thing that's comforting to me because I let people know, like, you don't have to worry about me stealing your story. If I just took every piece of my mother's story, that would be stories for the rest of my life, let alone add my father and my aunts and my uncles and cousins and everybody else. So I use those individuals to create ideas or activities that will trigger ideas. And those are the things that I help with when I'm coaching writers.
I love that. And I think that's a beautiful piece of advice for anybody who says, I'm fighting writer's block, or I don't know what to do, or I
Right.
have like this idea or concept, but I don't know how to flesh it out. Look at your family, look at your life. And I think too, a lot of the work that I do, and many creatives are kind of like based on them looking in and then be like, you know what? Somebody else might relate to this. So that was good. That was for me. I needed that one. I'm gonna put that one in my pipe.
Do that. Do that.
So I know I mentioned briefly in your bio that you started actually in news writing. And so
Yes.
let's talk about the pivot. What did it look like to transition from news writing and editorial to filmmaking? What did it look like? How did you do it?
Yeah, it was actually organic. So it wasn't, I'm gonna work this for 4 years and I'm gonna then. It didn't happen that way. The short version of the story is, I started in journalism right after college. So I had a 1 year internship after I graduated undergrad, and then that led to a full time job at a newspaper in Wilmington, North Carolina. And then from there, I moved to Pittsburgh and worked for a couple of other newspapers there. And so the transition was just, okay, I'm going to write. I'm going to figure out how to do things in the writing world. And that whole time, I was writing books. The whole time, I was helping other people write books. And then I transitioned to photography. I had a photography studio in Pittsburgh and still writing, still putting those little notes in my little duffel bag, all of those types of things. And then I got these two interns from the Art Institute of Pittsburgh. And one of them was on the film side of things, and one was on the photography side of things. And they said, hey, we need to do a film project for our class project. And I was like, oh, here we go. Let's do it. So I grabbed one of those ideas that I constantly had that I knew was written somewhere. And I said, I'll write something up and then, we can figure out how to do it. And so that's what we did. And that on that weekend that we shot it, we basically shot everything in a photography studio or right around the studio. Um, it was one of the best weekends of my life. And it showed me at that moment, like, this is what you need to be doing. You need to do this. We had so much fun. We laughed. So many things happened wrong because most of us didn't know what was going on. But that moment was an eye opener for me. It was about taking that vision again that I had in my head, seeing it come to life, and then seeing people enjoy it. And so once that process hit, it was like, okay, I got to do more. How am I going to do it? What am I going to do? And at the time, my wife and her writing partner, they were also writing some things. And so they were talking about moving to LA, moving to New York, moving to Atlanta. Where are we going to go? Where we can do this stuff. And so once that discussion happened and we moved to Atlanta, I just jumped right in. And that was in 2011 when we moved to Atlanta. And then from there, it was just work, 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 making connections, collaborating with people, studying, because I didn't go to school for filmmaking. So a lot of it was just on a job training. It was YouTube University, it was Google University, it was buying equipment and testing it out and epically failing, but then learning enough to say, okay, cool, I can do this. I can grow. I can grow with people because one of the things that I tried to do in the filmmaking side was to help writers and actors or aspiring actors who said, I think I want to try acting. Come on, let's like we're all playing together. And so a lot of the people that I was working with early on and even now still, I try to create opportunities for people to see if this is what they want to do or if they feel they're good at it. And that's what happened with me. I was like, okay, cool. I can do this a little bit. It's all right. I still look at that very first short film from 2009 and I say, yeah, yeah, it really wasn't that good, but it really wasn't that bad to not have any knowledge. And I've seen the growth in the progress. And so that's what I try to use to inspire other people as well to say, okay, yeah, this first time you were acting, yeah, you might have looked into the camera you weren't supposed to, or you might have missed this line, but it was your start. Now you can keep going. So as you were talking about people with writer's block and, things like that, start where you are and keep going. Just keep going because you're gonna get better. You might have what you call writer's block. I don't call it that myself, but you might have it, but get over it and just kind of keep moving. And there are things to help you with that. And that was the process for me in that transition. But I never stopped writing. I never will, as long as I can have the mental capacity and the opportunities. And there are new ways to write and new things to write. So I'm always going to do that in some point. But then I'll find other ways to inspire and motivate people. And that's how the book writing, the film, the documentaries, the philanthropy work, all of those things kind of come together because to me, they follow that common thread of inspiring, motivating, transforming, and ultimately empowering people to be their best self.
That is beautiful. I love it. Before I go to the next question, I'm curious to know what you call writer's block. Writer's block.
Yeah, so for me, I say I don't have writer's block. And
Okay.
so a lot of times when you say you have something, you have something.
Come on, power in the tongue.
So I don't have writer's block. If I get stuck with something, I write something else. So the
Mm,
writing isn't blocked. Something maybe in that story that needs to twist, or you kind of need to break away for a second from what it is you're doing. Go for a walk. Start writing something else. Listen to some music until you're inspired to move again. But don't stop writing. Even as I'm walking, I'm writing. I'm creating. I'm having
mm,
ideas. So something that I'm doing, whether it's just in thought writing or if it's actually writing, it will trigger that next step for me to keep going. So I will think about something or I'll be like, you know what? That's what's missing. Then I'll go back to that thing, but I don't stop writing. So that's why I say I don't call it writer's block for me. I don't have writer's block because I'm going to continue to write. And if you feel like it's a blockage in one thing, just do something else so you can come back to it. But don't stop writing.
that's good. I've always called that productive procrastinator. I'm like, well, I can't get this done, so I'm gonna go do something else. But that's actually
Yeah.
very, very enlightening because it's like you're not blocked from writing. You can go write something else, but it's like this thing, just break away, breathe, let it breathe, and just come back to it. Okay,
Yeah.
listen, this is free game.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I tell people too, because sometimes it's hard for some writers, not all writers, but some writers to shift creatively and
Hmm.
write something else creative. You don't even have to do that. Write letters, write notes, write a scripture, write, just keep writing. Write your interpretation of something. Just keep writing. It doesn't have to be, okay, I'm stuck on this movie script. I got to go write another movie script so I can come back to this movie script. Some people can't do that. But
Yeah.
what they can do is continue writing. Say, you know what, here's what you can do. Grab a journal, and this is what I'll tell some of my writing clients who are doing legacy projects. So get yourself a journal and then write your memories to your children that you'll give them one day. So you stuck in writing this script, or you're on this chapter of your book, and you're a little bit, I don't know where to go. Do I tell this story to that? Okay, go write it in that journal. When I was 15, I did this. Just write something. Go back to it then. But if you're like me, I always try to go to something creative because for me, the creative juices, those are the ones that kind of get me back to where I need to be. Even if I'm not writing fiction, if it's nonfiction, I still write creatively to come back to that nonfiction piece. So it just depends on who you are and what your skill level is and how you process those thoughts.
That's good. Y'all make sure y'all write that down because that's free game. Like I'm pretty sure somebody got a master class in there that you got to pay for. Write that down. So speaking of fiction and nonfiction, I think a benefit of having both backgrounds, as that journalism, writing, background, and then also having your filmmaker, I guess, professional experience kind of merged together is that you can do both. So you have the experience of both. You create informative documentaries like Remember Me, but then you also have Same Spot. So that's a creative work, but it also it emphasizes and incorporates the same issues that the documentaries cover, which I think is great. What do you think is your process for flipping on like your creative brain and then flipping on like your editorial brain in order to bounce between fiction and nonfiction?
To me, they're the same.
Oh,
So yeah, so it's not a big switch for me, because what I do, just in general, and as the company Expected in Entertainment, our mission is to educate, entertain, and empower. So that's on the creative side, as well as the fiction side and the nonfiction side. When we formed Exposed Dementia to deal with the documentary, I mean the dementia side of things, it's the same. Like, we want to utilize the arts and media as tools to be able to educate and to empower and to advocate for those with dementia and their care partners. So there's no like switch off and on for me. Even if I'm writing a comedy that doesn't really have any of those heavy themes like suicide or mental health or cancer or anything like that, it's still hitting one of those things, because sometimes we just need a break from everything that we're going through,
Ooh,
and that laugh is so medicinal. It gives you that energy and that life. So even though it doesn't have those themes, the idea of it is still the same for me. It's, let's create something that's going to have an impact on that person's life for whatever amount of time that they're experiencing it. And so it's easy to go back and forth, but I know that I have certain things that I'm going to do. I'm going to deal with mental health because how much it's impacted my family and all the things that are under that, with suicide, attempted suicide, depression, all of those things. And then when it comes to, the fictitious side and making up stories and things like that, I still try to find ways of weaving things in. So we'll talk a little bit about Same Spot more, but with Same Spot, it's a love story, but it's a love story that has a breast cancer theme to it. And so it's like, how do you tell this story, but you still incorporate something that's impactful and meaningful, and it shares a bit of what either I've gone through or somebody I know has gone through, and then use that as a way to educate people and empower people and give people hope. And so that's what I try to do throughout all of it. So the books, the movies, speaking, even when I'm coaching people, I'll use examples that they can relate to from my own experience or my family's experience, so they can understand they're not the only one. And so that's just a part of the connection for me between the creative and also the education side of it.
absolutely. And I think that's the beauty of the creative side, filmmaking.
Yeah.
Sometimes those projects, those creative projects, which are supposed to be just entertainment, bring to light things that we might not have known otherwise had we not turned on Netflix and, hopped into this movie based on a real story. So
Right.
very much appreciate you in this space. And I know I asked you this at Black Writers Weekend, but I want to jump into it again so that we can kind of disperse it to the audience. But a lot of your work, especially your documentary work, and then like you just mentioned, Same Spot also does it as well, focuses on some pretty heavy stuff. So we've got sexual assault, major mental health issues, major health issues and illnesses. How do you emotionally prepare for the work that you do?
It sometimes it's hard, because, like I said, some things are so personal that it becomes a therapy session for me first, before I can try to use it to help somebody else in that situation. Even with the documentary right now, Remember Me, it's from my family story. And so I've watched it probably 50 million thousand times right now. And every time I get emotional when I see my cousin talk about her mother, when I see my mother talk about her siblings, when I hear the stories that I share in the documentary, and I cry, and I watch other people as they're watching it. So for me, it's a part of that healing process. I'm still healing,
Yeah.
as I'm trying to help other people understand and heal as well. And so those topics become that. When I try to find out about certain things within my family or friends, or like when I say, hey, have you ever experienced this? Because, I've been thinking about this or something, and then I hear the stories, and then it becomes so personal to me. It becomes something that moves beyond, okay, I'm just going to create something and see what happens. Just like, no, I want to create something that is meaningful and powerful. And a lot of these stories are ones that we don't normally talk about in the Black community. And so it makes it a little easier because I know that these things are happening, but we're not talking about it. Or if we're talking about them, we're talking about them on a surface level, as opposed to saying, you know what, I need help, or I need to go to therapy. Removing those stigmas that Black people don't go to therapy, we don't talk about stuff. We don't go to the doctor. We
Yeah.
don't get tested for stuff. If we think it, we like, oh, I don't even want to know. Like, yeah, let's deal with it. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
it's maybe if I do it in a film and you see it and you be like, okay, so this person has a story similar to mine. I'm not the only one. You have
Yeah.
to go and talk to somebody. Or if I share my personal testimony about being in therapy and how much it's helped me over the past 3, 4 years, then it's easier for somebody who was prideful like I was. I'm like, I don't need to talk to anybody. I'll be all right. You know, it's what I do. So now if I can explain it to you in a book, if I can tell you what I've been through, or if I can show you in a story that's created, made up on a screen that you can relate to and you can say, oh, wow, okay, so there are other people. Or you see different people via interviews talking about their situation, how they discovered, whatever it is that they're dealing with. And now it might make you say, you know what? I think I need to go talk to somebody, or I need to, talk to my mother and my father about this, or let me talk to my kids and let them know what I'm going through. Like something to just inspire and move them in a different direction. And my goal is to be able to put so much out there that you can't avoid it.
Mm.
You can't avoid it. So sometimes so for dementia, and I know we're jumping all over the place, but
Well, this is good.
so for dementia, what happened with my family, we've had several family members who died with some form of dementia. We didn't know what type because nobody ever talked about it. We didn't know like how long they were dealing with it because we never talked about it. And that's the story in so many black communities. So by the time my aunt, who is featured in the documentary, when I saw her for the first time after she lost her memory, it was like, wow, it really impacted me. And then somebody asked me a question. The first question was, well, what type of dementia does your aunt have? And I was like, well, what do you mean? I said, she has dementia, like dementia. And they said, no, there's over 100 types of dementia. Which one does she have?
Oh, see, I've learned something new because I was not aware.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing. Like, because we don't talk about it and it's not something that, like, dementia is just, it's not something that you just hear on a regular basis, especially in the black community. Like, you're hearing more about Alzheimer's, you're seeing commercials and things like that. And if you knew that there were a couple like Alzheimer's, then you like thought maybe that everybody has Alzheimer's if they forget and stuff. But no, there are over 100 types, and so those were the questions that I was being asked that I didn't know. And so I'm like, wow, I got to share this information because if I don't know, I know a lot of other people don't know.
Exactly.
And so that's the thing with my writers. Again, I keep going back to them because they give me a lot of examples to be able to share. One of the things that I share with my writers is that let's remove obstacles. Let's remove excuses. I don't want you to have excuses to be productively procrastinating or whatever that term was that you use. So whatever those excuses are that we build in to make it easy for us not to do something, what I want to be able to do is remove those excuses to say, oh, well, I never went and got tested, prostate screening because I didn't know. I didn't know we had to. I didn't know black men, were at risk higher than anybody else. Oh, you didn't. Okay, so let me create something so that you can see something and then and that way you say it's your decision at that point. Am I gonna go get checked out or am I just gonna go and ignore it and hopefully nothing will happen? No, I want to take away those excuses. I tell my writers, okay, what's your challenge? I'll be tired in the morning and I'll be rushing to work. Okay, go to sleep an hour early, get up an hour early, write for that. Now, like remove that excuse. And
Hmm.
so that's what I try to do for myself. I'm not perfect, but I try to do that any way that I can. And then when I have information to share with the community, I do that because I want to help you, me, my family, my friends, people in my sphere. I want to be able to remove excuses so that again we can be the best version of ourselves, that we can do the things that we dream about. If I want people to dream bigger and live their dreams, I have to be able to show them a couple of things to be able to help them do that. I can't just tell them, oh, go do this and go do that. But what I can do is say, you can do this if you try to do this. Start here, take this step. And so creatively, that's been the best way for me. Like I don't have all the talents and all the skills that a whole lot of other people do, but the one or two that I have, I'm going to try to utilize them to inspire and motivate other people and to help people and to move people closer to where they want to be in life.
Yes. And speaking of that, I know I kind of left it out of the bio because I felt like we would get into it and touch on it.
Mhm.
You are also a philanthropist. You have your own nonprofit, and then you also talk about your mentorship and your writing classes that you offer. Tell us about that sphere of who you are.
Yeah, so I didn't have much growing up. And I'm not going to paint a super sad story or anything like that, because I had my family. And one of the things my cousin and I joke about now, seriously, but still joke about it, is that we didn't know how poor we were. We had everything that we thought we needed at the time, and we didn't miss anything. So maybe we didn't have the steak or some fancy meal, but every night we had food. And so I understood how, even though we weren't in the best situation, there were a lot of people who were less fortunate than us. And my grandmother, being the matriarch and being the one that everyone looked up to, family, community, everything, she taught us those things. Then my aunt taught us those things. Then my mother taught us those things. And so it was always about helping others, being better for yourself, but then also being better for other people. And so that kind of just followed me throughout my life. So I wanted to be able to find ways to do that, whether it's, doing a shoe drive and helping people, unhoused people with clothes and shoes, or if it was, helping people learn about prostate, or, giving donations to different communities or organizations. And so those things were built into me, by my family and then the community that I saw. And as a black person, there are needs. And no matter where you are in life, there is somebody that needs more, that needs
Mhm.
something that you take for granted. That person would be so happy and need and love and appreciate.
Yes.
And so when I saw that, I said, whenever I can, I'm going to, do more. And so for a long time, there were a couple of ideas that I had to give back. And then I started feeling guilty. I was making excuses.
Wow.
Oh, well, I can't do this. I can't do this. I don't have enough money for this. And then one day God convicted me. He was like, do what you can, because whatever you do will be appreciated. And
Mhm.
so one example of that, we had this program called King and Queen for a Day. And the concept behind this idea was we would go and find a homeless man, a homeless woman, and we would make them a king and a queen for a day. We would pick them up, take them to the hotel, let them shower, get them new clothes, feed them, and a night stay in a hotel. And I had that idea for probably 15 or 20 years. And I wouldn't do it because I said, how can you only help two people?
Mhm.
Like that's not that you walk and you find 50 people that's out there and you're gonna get two people. Like, how is that even? So I wouldn't do it. Then it was like, how are you gonna take this person? Because initially we were gonna start with just one person. How are you gonna take this person, show them this world, and then take them back to the street the next day? Like, how are you gonna do that? Like, that doesn't make. So I made all of those excuses. I felt, bad. It's like, I wish I could do more. I wish I could just end homelessness and, all of those things. And so when God said, just do what you can do, just do that one thing. So we did it. And it was like such an amazing experience. These two individuals just had the best day of their lives. And it meant so much to them. Who knows what happened afterwards, because we couldn't, keep up with them. But I believe that what we did for them that day inspired them, it motivated them, it gave them hope, and maybe they just shared some hope with somebody else who was not as fortunate as they. And so it's things like that that I try to make sure is important to what we do, because it always reminds us that it can be worse. And I've been in situations where it's worse than it is right now. And so whenever I can do that, whenever the people around me can do that, or if I link with people who are doing things, it's meaningful.
Yeah.
And I would even encourage people to just do, like, all those things that you're thinking about and you're making excuses not to. God wants you to do them. He wants you to do them. leave the rest up to him. You just do what you're supposed to do and let God bring that increase. Like it's so many things that can be done that we're making excuses about, we're not doing for whatever reason. Whether it's you don't think you have enough money, you don't think it's a big enough impact, you don't think you can round up the support, whatever it is, just do it, just try. And if it's not as perfect as you think, I bet it is to them.
Yes, I love that. And I feel like just as much as God wants you to do these things, the enemy doesn't want you to.
Right.
And so all those little seeds of, I don't know, or I don't think, or all the negative, seeds of doubt, literally tricks of the enemy to keep you from walking in your purpose. So
Exactly.
I absolutely 100% stand by that. Like sometimes you gotta just do it.
Just do
That
it.
literally became like I readopted that mantra after a moment where I had a medical emergency and I had all these ideas and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just do it. I'm gonna just start a podcast. I'm gonna just write a book. I'm gonna just do these things. And had I continued to sit on and water those seeds of doubt, I would have never been where I am today with those projects, with those things that I've done. Having inspired
Absolutely.
people, having people coming up to me say, you know what, girl, I listened to your podcast, or I re-listened, to episodes such and such, and I really needed that. And it's like, wow, had I just continued to water those seeds, I
Mhm.
wouldn't have a garden today. And
Right.
that's an interesting metaphor, but
Yeah.
wow.
No,
Oh,
that's very true. I even tell people that on the creative side as well. Like some people say, well, I don't have this camera, I don't have this equipment. How am I going to do that? At this point, just grab your phone, go outside, and say you're going to shoot something.
okay.
You know what I mean? And don't feel like it's not it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to have stars in it. It's not going to have the fancy effects. But you did it,
Exactly.
and then you build from there. Um, you know, that's kind of where I've been. I've had several people recently tell me one of the things that they love about me is that I'm not afraid to fail. It's like you just jump out there and you do it, and you're not worried about the naysayers or the haters or anything like that. And it's because I know they're there and they're gonna do that. That's their job to hate. That's their job to be negative. What is my job? My job is to get it done.
Exactly.
And so, who wins in that situation? They will win if you don't just do it.
Exactly.
So yeah, you'll see some of my stuff. Maybe it's not the best lighting. Maybe it's not the best cinematography. Maybe it's not the best editing. But guess what? It's out there.
I was about to say it's out there.
Yeah,
You're doing more than the person who's an aspiring filmmaker who's waiting to get that, fancy camera or to land that star. Like
yeah,
I love that. I
yeah,
absolutely love that.
yeah.
Okay, we've got a wrap soon, but I did want you to tell us a little bit about the two projects that you currently have circulated everywhere. I know you told me you just got back from DC, you had a screening
Yes.
in Atlanta, and you everywhere, and I love that for you. So tell us about Same Spot, and then tell us a little bit about Remember Me.
Yes. So Same Spot is a romance that has a breast cancer theme. I don't want to get too much into detail of how that theme plays a part, but it's a beautiful love story starring T.J. Jackson and Nina Bell, and we have an amazing cast of supporting actors. Great team that came together to do this, and this project is dear to me because we actually shot the project 6 years ago, and it took us a long time to be able to pull the pieces together because every opportunity that came up from the devil, I'm just gonna say the devil because sometimes it's the devil, sometimes it's not, but I'm just gonna put it all on him at this point. But we had so many issues from locations to equipment to sound and like everything, and so we had to rework the project to be able to get it to work, and it took us 6 years. So sometimes it takes a little bit longer for things to come to fruition, but if you keep at it, it'll get done. And we premiered it a couple of weeks ago in Atlanta. It was a sold out premiere. We had red carpet. It was fantastic. The people loved it, and they said, so and so needs to see it. We need to do this. So we're bringing it back this coming Sunday, November the 10th, at 5 p.m. at NCG Cinema in Brookhaven, and the tickets are on sale right now at same spot atl2.eventbrite.com. And I forgot to give you that link, Jazz. I'm sorry, but
It's okay.
same
We'll put it in there.
yeah, same spot atl2.eventbrite.com. And we actually have the first 20 tickets gets buy one, get one free. So you get two for the price of one. And we're just gonna show it again. We're gonna, celebrate the actors and the crew that worked so hard to do it, and then just let people see this beautiful love story. Like I believe in love, and second chances at love. And so this film will give people hope about love while also educating on breast cancer and breast cancer awareness. So we're really excited about that, and hopefully people will go and check it out, and come check it out, and see me there.
I know I will. Listen, I'm going to get me one of them buy one, get one free. Don't even worry
Right.
about it. Y'all take y'all time. I'm going to go get mine and then y'all get yours. Thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you for the work that you do. It is absolutely beautiful. It is absolutely important. And I'm so excited to go see. I'm going to be at the screen, so y'all can catch me there. Y'all can see Nathaniel there. But tell them, is there anything else we can look forward to? Anything else you can give us some sneak peeks on? And then where can they follow you?
Yeah, so we are having another screening of Remember Me, Dementia in the African American Community, and that is this coming Friday, November the 8th at 12:30 p.m. as part of the East Point Peachtree International Film Festival, and that'll be screening at the Sonesta Hotel in East Point. And so the link will be in the comments as well if it hasn't already been posted, or you can reach out to me on social media at C Nathaniel Brown on all platforms, and you'll be able to get more information there. But you can also go to exposedementia.com to find out more about the documentary. We've been traveling all over the country. We were just at Howard University yesterday. We screened it during the Essence Fest, multiple cities, and we're lining up spots for next year as well. So we're super excited about it.
Listen, just at Howard in DC yesterday, and here we are with AAMBC. We so appreciate you. Listen, y'all better get those tickets. Y'all better get it while it's hot. All of the information listed, you can see Remember Me. You can find it on exposedementia.com, running across the bottom of the screen. Same spot you can find on his personal website. All of those links have been conveniently dropped in the YouTube comments. And y'all, I know this is live, but nobody's here, but I got to give you a round of applause because amazing. Thank you again for being here with us. Thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all make sure y'all connect with C Nathaniel to keep up with all the amazing things he's doing. And I'm telling you, get it while it's hot because price is going up. Price is going up.
I appreciate you, Jazz.
Thank y'all so much again for tuning in to another episode of In Creative Color. I am your host, Jazz on Fire, now and forever to be known as your fave. So if you got to write that down, go ahead. We will keep the ball rolling with another amazing guest, and we'll be back to Fourth Sundays next month in December with Tamala Baldwin. So again, y'all got to stay locked and loaded for these conversations with these amazing creatives. As always, thank you for tuning in, and we can't wait to catch you next time. Bye.
For me, this was always going to be what I was going to do. I had told my mother at 12 that I was going to move to Atlanta. I was going to be this full-time authoress, and I was going to just tell stories. I never wanted to be anything other than that. And I've been writing stories since I was maybe 8, 9 years old. And for me, it was just in me. Like, people know how to naturally sing. They know how to naturally dance or paint and draw. I knew how to tell stories.
Hey y'all, I am Jasmine Bunch, but now and forever to be known as your fave, Jazz on Fire. And I am one of the newest hosts of the Sunday Craft Chats. Catch me every fourth Sunday hosting In Creative Color. Can't wait to see y'all there.